Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Today we're talking about divorce in midlife. This is a topic that touches many women in the middle years. We're joined by a friend who's going to share her experience, and we hope her story will bring encouragement and hope to anyone dealing with this situation. Let's get started. Listeners, today we're talking about divorce in midlife. This is a topic that touches many middle-aged women as the divorce rate for adults ages 50 and older has doubled in the past 25 years. And for women in midlife, divorce can be particularly hard if they've often been so busy taking care of a home and family that they're more ill-equipped than men to deal with all the changes that divorce brings. And today we have our friend Julia, who's here to tell us her story, and we hope her experiences will help listeners who are dealing with similar situations, either directly or indirectly. So you might not be dealing with this yourself, but you might have a good friend or a sister or someone like that. So Julia, thanks so much for being willing to come on and talk with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Not a topic really that anyone really wants to know firsthand about, but I know that a lot of people go through this. And when I was going through mine, I remember thinking, I hope one day I have the opportunity to help people. And so this will be my experience that I talk about.
Yes, and I think that personal experiences are so valuable. Like, we can learn so much. Not every detail that you went through is going to match someone else, but there are still so many things that we can glean from it. And so while we've known you for so many years, our listeners don't know you at all. So would you feel comfortable introducing yourself to our listeners?
Yes. So my name is Julia, and I met all these lovely ladies at church, a long time ago. 25, I don't know how many years ago, 26 years ago. I was married for 26 years, and I have two boys, Josh, Ivy. They're married, and then Justin. My oldest is 26, and my youngest is 22.
I can't believe it has been that long. You know, we still think of all of our kids as being young, but like our kids were little kids together. So, and now they're adults. Now they're young adults.
Yeah. Imagine that, huh?
I know. I guess that means we've all gotten older too.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, today's episode is about what happened after your decision to divorce, but maybe you can just answer a couple questions before we get started, because I think some people are really surprised by divorce, like they were at home one day thinking everything was fine, and some people have been thinking about it for years. Were you surprised to get to this point in your life, or was it something that you had thought about for a while and you'd kind of mentally prepared for?
So it did not catch me by surprise. We had been struggling for a long time. So it wasn't something that caught me off guard, but it was still a struggle because, nobody ever wants to pull that trigger. Nobody ever wants to make that decision. So I kind of just avoided thinking about it as much as possible. But I did have a conversation with my ex-husband, and, it was made clear to both of us that this is the decision that needed to happen. So.
Okay. And just also before we get started, people might be wondering, how long ago was your divorce?
It was final in May of 2018.
Okay. So you've had a few years, so you're going to be sharing your experiences a few years out.
Yes. I've been divorced about 3 years. Mm-hmm.
Well, Julia, I know divorce is such a life-altering event. I would imagine that it might produce some fears about the future. And did you have any fears? And if so, would you mind sharing what some of those were?
I was consumed by fear of all kinds of things. I think that's one of the reasons why I delayed what I did as long as I did. But yes, I had fear that, I would ruin my children's life. I had fear that they wouldn't recover from it, and that they, I would somehow ruin their life. I had fear of, how am I going to provide for myself? I had fear, I'm 50, I'm about to turn 57. So how old was I then? 53-ish. Mm-hmm. And so I had worked part-time and had been a stay-at-home mom for all of my married years. So I had not been out in the workforce. I was not college educated. I had a lot of fears in that regard. You even take on fears like, what are my grandkids going to think of me when they get older? You think about all those things. You become very anxious about all of that. But I remember when I decided to pull that trigger, I would play Christian music and that talked about fear because I knew I had a lot of fear. One of the songs that I listened to was "Fear is a Liar." And I'd never heard those lyrics, explain exactly what I was feeling at the time. And I don't know, but I've got them. Can I just recite some of those lyrics?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay. This song is by, who is it? By Zach Williams. So when he told you you're not good enough, when he told you you're not right, when he told you you're not strong enough to put up a good fight, when he told you you're not worthy, when he told you you're not loved, when he told you you're not beautiful, that you'll never be enough. Fear, he is a liar. He'll take your breath. He'll stop you in your steps. Fear, he is a liar. He will rob your rest, steal your happiness, cast your fears in the fire because fear, he is a liar. And there's more to that song, but it just explains so well because, fear is a liar. Fear will make you believe things that aren't true. So that helped me when I realized that because, we're called to take every thought captive. And so that's what listening to Christian music and affirming my worth and having people around me that knew the situation and encouraged me and believed in me when I didn't necessarily believe that I could get through this and, be a functioning adult and have a good life. You think about all those things. So,
yeah. And I think it's so interesting what you said, Julia, about fearing something is far off maybe in the future is what your grandchildren would think. Like that is projecting. I know I do that. I project fears that may never happen. Like it
right.
Like we make up stuff to be afraid of.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I love hearing that you just share some of the things that were also encouraging to you in such a difficult season. And I would love to hear just once you guys decided to divorce, what were some of the first steps that you took to try to move forward?
So once I had that conversation with my husband and it was made crystal clear, you would think I would be ready to step out and start making decisions and go forward. Well, no, I was still living in my fear of how am I going to do this? How am I going to pay for this divorce? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? So I kind of wallered for a little while. And I remember having a conversation with a friend, and it's someone that I really respected. I kind of told her about the conversation that we had, and she said, "Julia, it's time. It's time that you make a decision. It's time." And I said, "Yes, I agree, but I don't know whether to turn right or turn left. I don't know." And she said, "Well, I think, your first step is to talk to an attorney." Well, that's a huge first step.
Right.
But it's a good first step because it's not an action where you're, I'm going to go today and file divorce. But it's a day that you go and you talk with someone and you find out details about how this is going to look, what I can expect. And so she literally took my hand and she said, "I'll go with you." And so I interviewed two. She went with me with both. Just having her by my side was so helpful. And then, of course, I also had some conversations with, best friends, and God, confirmed through them it's time. I never once had a thought where, am I doing the right thing? Once I had that conversation with my ex-husband, then, when I realized that it was over, and when I realized, the steps that I would need to take, and I talked to an attorney, I made a decision, and it's like a weight lifted off of my shoulders. Yes, I was still timid. Yes, I was still, a little frightened of the unknown, how all these puzzle pieces were going to come together. But I had peace, and I'm so thankful for that. And God gave me that peace.
And great friends. I mean,
yes,
how helpful to have a friend to you
For
know,
sure.
go along with. Because, when you've been married a long time, you're used to having a really close support system. I mean, even if things have been bad, there's someone that could go with you to things often.
Right.
And we're just not used to going through like things that we don't know anything about. There'd be someone else to maybe help us
Lean
go
on.
through that. Yeah. And
Mhm.
so it was great that
Mhm.
she could be there.
Yeah, and I didn't know anyone really that had been divorced. All my close friends were married, happily married, not perfectly married, but happily married. They
Mhm.
had a good, healthy marriages. And so I didn't have this, I didn't have anyone that had been through a divorce that I could say, can you help me with this? But, God used my friends to fill in the gaps. And
Well,
so,
sometimes we need I think it's called I've heard this term used, the friendship of presence. Like they don't have to know necessarily,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
just to be there and literally hold your
And
hand sometimes.
yeah, and that's my personality. Maybe someone doesn't need that. Maybe someone feels comfortable stepping out on my own, but whether it's exercise, whether it's shopping, whether it's eating, whether it's whatever, I like a buddy with me. And so,
Me too.
yeah.
We've talked a lot about that, Julia. All of us do.
Yeah. Yeah. Girls, they need the girlfriends, right?
Mhm.
Right. I know it's human nature to care about what other people think about our decisions. Like we want to be understood. And you may have already answered this question, but were most people supportive of your decision? Like your family, extended family?
Yes, Julie, thank the Lord. Everybody was so super supportive to me. I didn't have one person question me or anything like that. And my mother has had dementia. She's since passed away, but she had dementia during that time, and I had been taking care of her. And some of that time, I was going to her home and taking care of her. Some of that time, I had 24-hour care in her home. Some of that time, she lived with me. But I remember on the weekends, I would go to her house and I would relieve her helpers. And because we all know that care is so expensive. And so I would go on the weekends and my brother would alternate with me. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to tell mom. I don't want her to worry about me. If she's capable of still worrying about me, I don't want her to worry about me.
Mhm.
And so I let that go for a while. And then I was at her house one time, and it was during, I was at the stage in my divorce that I was so completely amazed at how God was providing for me with all my needs. And I can talk more about that later, but I just thought, I'm just going to tell her. So I said, Mom, I've got some news for you. I said, it's really good news. And I want you to be happy for me. I don't want you to be sad. And she said, okay. And she got real still. She was standing at the stove and she turned around and looked at me. And I said, well, I'm getting a divorce. I'm going to divorce my husband. And she paused and stared at me. And she said, well, Julia, I know that you would not be making this decision if it weren't the only decision that you could make. And she said, I am very proud of you.
Wow.
Mhm.
What a blessing.
And what a blessing. I know. So I was very thankful for that moment. And matter of fact, she actually, she was sitting on her porch and I was talking to her. I was at home and I was talking to her on the phone on a porch and her caregiver was there. And I heard her say, now, did you know that my daughter, she's getting a divorce? I'm so proud of her. And I was like, oh,
Oh my goodness.
so, it's funny.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. I hope you're proud of me more than just getting a divorce. But
Oh my goodness, Julia.
yeah.
Well,
Gotta
even
find the
if
laughter.
yes, even if the divorce was for the best, did you grieve? Did you feel like there was a loss of something or grieving of ideas or dreams or thoughts that you had about the future? What was that like for you?
So my experience may be different than other people's because I feel I was as prepared as anybody could possibly divorce and be on my own because we had been pretty much estranged. And so I feel like I didn't necessarily grieve the loss of my marriage like some people would have, that maybe had something suddenly happen or, anything like that, because it had been a long time coming. And so, but I did grieve. I did, my life was changed dramatically. I was a mom. I had laundry to do and meals to cook, and my youngest was still in the home. So he would come in at nights and sit by my bed and talk to me about what he did that night. And I had a rhythm and a routine, and I did grieve because I left that and moved into a realtor friend of mine, and all of a sudden had none of that. So my life did change pretty dramatically, but it was a decision that I made. I made that decision to get a divorce. And so some women may not have had that choice. And so it's harder for them. And I get that, totally get that.
Yeah, I could see how that would be a real difference if you are the one that the husband has said, well, I'm making a decision to get a divorce. Those are two completely different emotional experiences.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Well, I know that divorce touches every aspect of your life, like even things that you probably didn't anticipate. So let's talk a little bit about the ways your life changed. Obviously, you said that you moved in with a realtor friend who was willing to open up her home to you. I mean, that was a huge change. You'd been a homeowner, been in charge of your own home, and now you had a completely different lifestyle, your finances. Like, tell us about the things that changed for you.
Mm-hmm. A lot of things. But even in that, anyone that knows me well knows my love of Franklin, and I love the square. I've always wanted to live on the square somehow, some way. My kids know that very well, and hopefully one day I'll get back. But I had this realtor friend, and we weren't close, but at the time. But we saw each other in passing one time, and I told her I was going to be going through a divorce, and she said, "Well, I would be open to renting you my room if you need me to." And so I was like, "Okay, well, thank you for the offer." Well, come to find out, I did end up living with her. She lived a block from the square in the cutest, beautiful home, walking distance to the square. So I lived there for about a year and a half, and that's where I got to heal in my happy place, which I think, how neat is that? The place that I lived for a year and a half, that I healed, that I got to process everything and figure out everything. But so that was neat. And then I got a job. I was a realtor. And a part-time realtor at best. I did all the things that probably don't generate money, but I thought, times are changing. I got to step this up. And so I was on my computer one day, and I got a message from another realtor that I really like and respect. She just private messaged me and said she didn't know anything about my situation. And she said, "Hey, I was just thinking about you." She said, "Have you ever thought about working for a builder?" And I was like, "Well, no." And she said, "Well," so I started researching that. And, when you're a realtor, you're self-employed. And so you don't have benefits and you don't have those kinds of things. And you're on a straight commission. So I'm sorry, when you're in general real estate, you're self-employed. So, but when you work for a builder, then you have benefits. You're still on commission, but you have health care, you have 401k, you have dental, you have all that, which would be perfect for me. She mentioned in there that she thought this company was hiring, and I immediately looked them up, and I immediately called the office. And I just said, "Hey, are y'all hiring? Can I speak with the person that's hiring?" They connected me with the sales manager. I had a really nice conversation with her, and about 10 to 15 minutes later, I hung up and I thought, "Holy smokes, I think I just got a job." And so I went from working real estate part-time at best to being employed 100% to a very demanding job. And very, very thankful that my sales manager listened to me, heard my story, saw something in me, that she hired me, because that job has changed my life a lot. It's a very demanding job, and it's a job that's taught me so much about myself.
Yeah. That must have been difficult to make that transition. I mean, I'm sure there were a lot of ups and downs with even just working
Oh,
full
yeah.
time then. Mm-hmm.
Very difficult, very challenging at times. I had a lot to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about hard times and struggles and all that is the byproducts of struggling and hard times are you usually come out the other side stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like through those struggles that I'm a better realtor now. If I could have gone around that struggle, I would have totally wanted to go around that struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to go through them. But anyway, I'm very thankful for that. And so that's another way my life changed.
Yeah. What about like personally, like, did you have to move churches? Like, did your friend groups change? Like all those things that we have kind of built around, did you feel like those all changed at the same time, or did they stay pretty constant?
Yes. So I did end up changing churches. I had kind of wanted, to try another church out, and it was in Franklin, and so it was really more convenient for me to go there. And so I went, and I loved that church, and I don't currently go there because now I'm living somewhere else. But yeah, so my friend group did change. I lost that. I didn't see my friend group like I did used to see my friend group, and that did change a little, and it was hard. And I remember thinking, things are so different now.
Mm-hmm.
But, you just got to ride that out. And, relationships are important to me. And, I've been blessed with a lot of really good friendships that have invested in me. And so, those people have come around, and I'm very thankful for that. And, I have found, and I don't know if y'all have ever experienced this, but you can sort of have a pity party for yourself, and you can think, woe's me, my life is, this isn't exactly how I want it. And then lo and behold, your phone will ring, or you might be having a crappy day. Your phone will ring and it will say, hey, I was just thinking about you. Would you like to come over and celebrate this particular thing with us? And
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, I almost want to cry, because that has happened so many times. And it's like, thank you, Lord, for knowing I need a friend right now, and a friend calls me and invites me over.
Mm-hmm.
So and Julie's smiling because she's actually been the one that has done that probably the most. And I don't even know that she knows every situation, but it's really neat. So,
well, I guess I may be kind of sensitive to that right now. My question for you maybe is, do you feel like it's different navigating the world as a single person, like friendships and church? Does it seem different?
It is different. And I can see how people would say in my situation, well, I don't want to go to that. Everyone, because my friends are all married. Mm-hmm. I'll be the only single person. I've said those things. And there's probably times when I didn't go. But for the most part, I do go. And every time I end up having a great time. So I never regret going. So I would say definitely go.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely go. Mm-hmm. And, I also know that maybe there's people listening that don't have a great friend group, maybe whether they moved, or maybe they are more introverted and just their life has been revolved around their husband and their family, and they didn't really have that. And what I would say is there are so many opportunities out there if you'll just be willing to open yourself up and be vulnerable to step into, like an exercise group. That's a whole nother story in itself. But I mean, I had an exercise group, and it was called The Movement, and I saw it come across my Facebook page. And I lived in Brentwood, and there was an area on the other side of me called Grassland. And I was like, I really need a group of women, an exercise class that I can get involved in the Grassland area, because that's convenient for me. I don't have to see anybody. I didn't know very many people in Grassland. I can go looking, right out of bed, exercise, not have to worry about what I look like. And I remember going to the grocery store over there and looking at their board that had all notices on it, babysitters, wanted, realtor cards, all that. Looking like, where can I find this? Couldn't find an exercise group. I Googled them, couldn't find an exercise group anywhere. And then my son had gone to when he was little, he had gone to this place in Grassland and done a birthday party at a Taekwondo place. And the whole back of it was garage doors that opened up. So I just thought that's the neatest place. So when that thing came across Facebook, I was like, Grassland area? Yes, this might work. So I called, and Christy, her name's Christy that leads it, answered the phone, and we ended up having a chat. I ended up pouring my heart out. We just kind of, I'm an open book, so everybody probably knows my business. But anyway, we kept talking, and then she told me the price. She told me that it was, it's not just an exercise class. We do yoga, we do 2 days of hard workouts, we do yoga, and then we do a day of, kind of like a Bible study where we get together and we encourage each other in life. And so then she told me the price, and I was like, holy smokes, that's a lot of money, and I didn't have it. And so I was like, okay, well, let me, just think about this. And we ended up getting off the phone, and I had entered a cooking contest at Keller Williams. And believe it or not, my first check was because I won a cooking contest.
That's awesome.
They sent me a check in the mail. I got it, and it was for the exact amount. And it was a lot of money for me back then. And I didn't even call her. She called me that same day, and she's like, Julia, I was thinking about it. I want to gift this to you. I was like, you don't have to gift it to me.
Huh?
I just have the money. And I told her how it happened. And I mean, that's just another way that God showed up. But it was in Grassland, same exact building with the garage doors that open up in the back. And I spent almost 3 years, 2 years, maybe 2 years with that group of ladies. And holy cow, they loved on me. I can't even tell you how great that program was for me. So, I would tell other women to, if exercising's not your thing, or even if you can't afford to do something like that, there are meetup groups that cost nothing, and you can meet people that way. The library has things that you can do, go to church. There are a lot of ways that you can hopefully be able to grow some friends that can, be there and help you through this journey.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
And, and some of I know YMCA has this, but some of them have a plan. I don't know if it's called Open Doors, but it's really based on your income and different things. So you might not think you can afford it, but you have to research and see if these places do have things that can maybe reduce their prices or something like that.
I love that encouraging story. Yeah.
Yeah. When God gifts you with, not only the finances, you got the check in the mail because you're a great cook, but even like something as simple as it was in that building that was a good reminder, and it's a place you always love. Like, just those extra touches.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you feel the need to reach out to anybody for help in certain areas, like maybe like with your finances, even counseling? Did you feel like counseling was helpful, or that you needed that?
So my girlfriends were my counselors, and they were exceptional
and cheap,
and very cheap. Yeah. And my girlfriends made me laugh. I think everybody needs girlfriends that make them laugh. And I have a lot of friends that make me laugh. So that would be a definite priority in choosing friends too, that you can laugh with in hard times. A friend of mine directed me to her daughter-in-law, who her name is Malia Stevens. Her mission is to help women going through things like this that I was going through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, she did help me because I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything. And so she helped with making a list of things that I needed to be working on and get done by the time, I did get divorced. And so that was good. And she helped me in other ways too. And I still use her, with my finances. And I started a new church. So that helped. I'm in the process of finding another church here where I live now. But there definitely, people helped me along the way. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Julia, thanks for mentioning Malia. We actually had her on in episode 126, and she talked about basically money matters for women in midlife, but she does really feel a calling to help women who have gone through divorce or widowhood, or just women in general, even if you're married, but you just don't know that much about your assets or your retirement funds, or just she makes it understandable. So if you want to go back and listen to episode 126, you can find out more about that. I think her ministry is called Wise and Worthy, so you could go to wiseandworthy.com.
I love hearing all of these stories, Julia. Thank you for giving us a spotlight into the things that really do make a difference. Even working out, that's amazing. That's close to my heart. And I love hearing how you found that group of women. With hearing all of these different things, is there something that you would say helped equip you to be able to handle the difficult times of the divorce?
My faith and definitely helped me. Remembering and reading sometimes on a daily basis God's promises to me. God's faithfulness to me. So that's what I would say would be most. I've got an amazing family. My two sons and my daughter-in-law have been so good to me. So that has helped. But, learning to embrace the unknown and get outside of my comfort zone, that helped me a lot. Being able to really lean into different things. Because I learned through all this that I can do hard things, and we can all do hard things. God has equipped us to be able to do hard things, and it's not easy because you don't want to go through it. You'd rather go around it or under it or any way other than through it. But like I said, there are byproducts from it, and learning you can do hard things, and learning of God's faithfulness and His goodness through all of that. That's what I learned. So. My faith is definitely the driving factor that helped me through this. And, my family, my sister-in-law, she was incredible all the way through it. And so I had a great support system. I had a great support system, definitely. But even with a great support system, you find yourself lonely. You find yourself struggling with it. You still find yourself struggling with it. Even today, I struggle with things. Holidays, we haven't figured that out yet. I mean, I think it's good to communicate about holidays and kids and how that works so that everybody understands and there are not, any unmet expectations, because otherwise you'll end up on a couch crying and And so, it's an ongoing process. I've got, like I said, my family's they are very forgiving, and they are very understanding, and they listen to me when I need to talk. I think it's a good idea not to share too much because you don't want to put your burdens on your kids, even though they're adults. But they can, they want to be involved in your life. And so I think there's a line of what you shared with them, because I've definitely been blessed by, my family, my boys, and my daughter-in-law.
That's wonderful to have such a supportive family. And I'm sure that your boys even would love to hear that. I'm sure you tell them, but just, our adult children, they really become our friends as adults.
Yeah,
and to support you in that way is awesome. And to have so many people around you like that is great.
Yeah, for sure. My first Valentine's Day, unbeknownst to either one of them, and I worked that day, they both showed up at my house. I mean, I met one of them on my way home. He called me. He's like, "Mom, where are you?" I was like, "I'm on my way home." He's like, "Well, where are you?" I was like, "I'm passing the Target in Cool Springs." And he's like, "I'm at the Target in Cool Springs." And I'm like, "You are? Why are you there?" Because they lived in Cookville. And he's like, "Well, pull on over here." And I was like, "Okay." Pulled over there, flowers for me. He and his wife had got me flowers. Got in the car, phone rang again. "Mom, where are you?" And I promise you, neither one of them knew they did this. "Where are you?" I said, "I'm on my way home."
The roles have changed here.
Yeah. He said, "I'll meet you there." I was like, "Okay." Showed up, and he had these cute little flowers for me. So,
that's so sweet.
It's neat because, you pour your heart into them, and then when you need them, they pour their heart into you, and it's really neat.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear, Julia. That's really wonderful.
Yeah.
So now that you're 3 years in, how are you doing now?
Well, I'm a work in progress. That's what I would say. I enjoy my life, and I'm just in a grateful place. So I still can get, holidays, like I said, still figuring that out. There's still some things, so it's a work in progress. You think you're doing good one day, and then bam, you find yourself sitting all alone on the couch crying. So, you have to go through the process. Allow yourself to have these emotions, but don't stay there and don't let them control you. God made us to be confident, and I always remember that. I want to be a confident person in who I am. And so when I have those days, and I don't stay there. I don't allow myself to stay there. So, but
I feel like we could put that on repeat on this podcast.
Right.
Not staying where you want to, staying in self-pity or grief is good, but you can't stay there.
I get to travel. I've taken a girls' trip last year, and then a trip. We went to Portland, Oregon, and to the coast, and then we did a Maine trip, and of course did Florida. And I'm getting ready to go somewhere again. And so I enjoy traveling and working hard. My job is at times all-consuming, and so just take one day at a time.
Right.
Well, I love that you're so willing to share. And I really feel like you're just such a bright light in the midst of something that could be so difficult for women that find themselves in this situation. And I would love to ask you, do you have any encouragement for that woman out there that's facing divorce or still struggling after a divorce?
Gosh, and I thought about that question a lot. What I would say is, divorce isn't something that any one woman wants to go through. I would not wish that on anyone, but I think it's important to accept it and accept what it is. If that's what it is, that you're getting a divorce, accept it and lean into this new phase of your life and lean into all the possibilities of goodness that might come from it. You might not have the same life that you had, but you'll have a different life. And I am here to say that my life is good. My life is really good. So I would just encourage people to, are byproducts from struggles. It makes you stronger. Don't live in the past. I know a lot of women want to live in the past and want to become bitter. And I definitely, I did know someone that, well, it was my mother, and she became bitter at one stage in her life, and I saw it all over her. It colored her whole life. It colored all of our lives for a while. And I never, ever, ever wanted that to happen. I never wanted bitterness to take root and grow in me. Didn't want it. And so I would encourage people to be careful and of not letting that happen. It comes from forgiveness, forgiving yourself, forgiving your partner, forgiving the situation, and embracing life, because God created us with a purpose and a plan. And one of the Bible verses that I really like is Romans 15:13. May the God of all hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in Him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. And it is possible. It is possible to be joyous even during times of such hard times.
Julia, thank you so much for that, because I realized we started this podcast and you mentioned the list of fears running through your head. And here we are ending, and you're able to point our listeners to hope. And I'm so thankful for that. Thank you for your testimony.
Well, gosh, thank you for letting me get on here and share my story. And no one's story is going to be the same, but, thank you.
Yeah, your story is so encouraging. And would it be fair to say, Julia, that how your life has turned out exceeds your expectations, what you thought it might be at the beginning?
It totally has.
Yeah.
It totally exceeded my expectations. I think that, you should keep an open mind for sure, because I was prone to think this bad thing's going to happen. This bad thing's going to happen. Well, this might happen. And then this might happen. But if you have those thoughts, it will lead you to despair. It will lead you to depression. But if you have, if you can open your mind up and say, well, but what if it's better? What if I wake up in the morning and I don't have this heaviness around my heart anymore? What if, I can make decisions now and don't have to involve anybody else? what if I can plan things and I can plan things that I want to do and things that bring me joy. What if? I think an important thing is to praise God for your future, for things that He already has in mind and in place for you. You might not see it, but there are good things awaiting you too. And so praise Him.
Yes. Thank you for those words of encouragement, Julia, and thanks for being willing to share your story. I know that listeners have heard your heart today, and we hope that this was encouraging to listeners because, like we said, you might know someone that is going through a divorce. You might be going through a divorce. You might know someone next year, and this episode might come to mind as an encouragement to someone. And like Mindy said, even in the midst of really dark circumstances, you've pointed us to the way that God has carried you through this. So thank you. One of the things we always do on Midlife Matters is we have a segment where we share new and exciting and fun things that are happening. And I just know that with your attitude, you're going to have something wonderful for us today. So let's go into I'm a Fan. Okay, Julia, what are you a fan of this week?
Okay, so I had 3 things. I'll narrow it down to 1, but y'all probably have heard. I'm way probably behind the 8 ball on this, but have y'all seen on Netflix Countdown: Inspiration for Mission to Space? Have y'all seen that?
No.
No, I have not.
You have to watch it tonight. It is Elon Musk. Y'all know who he is, right?
Tesla.
Yes. So he funded an all-civilian space mission. Do I like space? No. I've never liked watching a show that involved space. But this is 3 civilians, not space people, that they put on this rocket, and it orbited the Earth for 3 days. And so it's the story of how they chose these 3 individuals and then the leader. It is so
that does sound cool. Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't trust this recommendation from just anybody, but knowing Julia and what she would like, I think I might like it.
Yes,
well, her enthusiasm.
Yes, it's very inspirational. Very, very, very inspirational. So I binge watched it, and then we got to the point where they were supposed to go on to so it's really anticlimactic for me. So I don't know where the rest of the series is. I guess it's coming, but
okay. All right. Well,
really
we will for sure put a link in our show notes to that, Julia. Thank you for that recommendation. All right, Julia, are you as enthusiastic about your recommendation this week? What are you a fan of?
I am very enthusiastic, but it's not something that I really am going to wish on any of you guys.
Okay.
So my husband had his scan today. And I don't know if I was particularly nervous about this one. I haven't been nervous in the past, but I don't know. I just really was feeling it in my stomach today, all anxious. And everything came back. Great news. Everything's stable. The tumors are almost basically gone.
What a miracle.
They're never going to be totally gone, I don't think. But he said there's just always going to be visible evidence of something there. But they are stable, and that is considered great news. So I'm just a fan of God, modern medicine, drug trials, all of that together, working together.
Yes.
Yes. We celebrating with you, Julie. I'm so excited for you guys.
That's awesome. And I know our listeners will be celebrating that news too. Yes.
Yes.
Mindy, what are you a fan of this week?
Well, it's not nearly as awesome as that. But it was awesome. I taught an exercise class this week, and I had to bring my own music, which was kind of daunting thinking about it. And so I talked to my adult children about how to do Spotify Premium. I know this sounds ridiculous. I feel so old. And I was telling them I can't figure out how to sign up for Spotify Premium on my phone. They're like, Mom, you can't sign up for it on your phone. You actually have to go on the computer to do it. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So I figured that out. Okay, so thank you, adult children, for helping me figure out Spotify Premium. It's awesome. I was able, you have access to every song, and I find myself all the time thinking, oh yeah, that song. And I go in and I add it to the playlist. And I've already made a playlist for myself. Like I did one for Pilates. I'm going to do one for my more boot camp style class. And it downloads to your phone. So even if you go to a place with no Wi-Fi, you can turn it on airplane mode and your phone has access to the music.
Oh,
so
that's wonderful.
I have been thrilled with Spotify Premium. So it's actually $10 a month, but you get a 3-month free trial. So
good. I love that.
Yeah. And you can probably have more people on it than just yourself. I mean, is that just a single membership or does that allow you to have some family members too?
Okay. So yeah, this is still so new to me. Everyone out there's probably laughing because I'm just now discovering this. But my daughter, Abby, was like, oh yeah, I can see you through her Spotify Premium. She's like, yeah, I haven't seen your playlist yet. So then when I finally made my Pilates playlist, she could see that. And I guess you can share albums. So see, this is all new to me. And I'm just so amazed at my access to music because I have anywhere from Michael Jackson to Journey to Pink to Bruno Mars to, there's everything.
All my favorite music.
Thomas Rhett, Dan and Shay, Taylor Swift. I've got everybody on there.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Love it.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, this week I'm a fan of a food, and I'm not usually a fan of foods, but we have a big family and they were all over for dinner and I had to make some kind of dessert and I actually didn't feel like making anything. So I was like, what could I serve? And then I'm like, well, we could serve ice cream, but we have soy-free people, dairy-free people, gluten-free people, even ice cream requires thought hand. And so one of my teenagers works at Jenny's Ice Cream. And she told me about these flights that they have. They're basically 10 half scoops, but she told me that half scoops are really almost like a full scoop. So what we would consider a full scoop. So it's basically 10 scoops of ice cream. You can mix and match, and they have dairy-free options, soy-free, gluten-free. And then the whole thing is only $20, which you figure that's $2 a scoop, which you might think is expensive, but by the time you buy the ingredients for a dessert and make it yourself, and the good part for me was because my daughter works there, I get it half off, so it was only $10 for the flight. But I said, hey, can you bring that home after work today? And we will have that for dessert. And it was so fun because we just put it in the middle of the table, gave everybody bowls and spoons, but then you got to try all the different ones that you wanted to. So
I love that.
I love Jenny.
Yes. If someone is trying to bring dessert at the last minute someplace and they want something new and exciting that might be something a little bit different, you can try the flights at Jenny's Ice Cream.
How fun. And that's a whole experience too. So that's a fun way to do dessert with a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, Julia, thanks so much for coming on. We're so happy to talk with you. It was really encouraging and we appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Mindy.
Yeah,
thanks for coming on, Julia.
All right, Mindy and Julie, we will talk to you next week.
All right.
Sounds
great.
All
right, talk
girls.
to you later. Bye. We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.